Hello everyone, welcome to a new series of videos where I show off deck lists each week, condensing a full detailed deck guide into a 5-minute video, chock full of quality info including card choices, deck strategy, tech options, and the Mulligan game plan. We're kicking things off today with Amethyst Sapphire, aka Blurple. I'm going to show off a few different versions of the deck as this ink pairing is super flexible. But ultimately, I'm here to show off a Merlin list using Merlin Intellectual Visionary because it's a super exciting card and this is by far the best deck to use him in. But before we build up to the Merlin shenanigans, here's a look at what I believe is the new standard Blurple Bounce list moving forward. And this will be the core kickoff point for all the decks discussed today. Amethyst and Sapphire is an ink pairing that has been creeping in the shadows for a long time, always hovering just outside the fringes of competitive play. I believe now is the time for players to really take a look at Blurple in Lorcana. Blurple has been given a few great tools in Set 5, primarily the new Sapphire character Tipo Growing Sun. Tipo is the perfect addition for Amethyst Sapphire. He allows you to ramp from 2 to 4 ink on turn 2, like one jump ahead, but having this ability on a character has some major benefits, especially in Amethyst. We've seen this before with Detective Mickey. He provides Sapphire ink ramp when he enters play, and you can combine this with the bounce effects of Madam Mim and Amethyst to get the full value of each effect, encouraging lines that enable consistent ramp in the early and mid game using characters alone. Detective Mickey does this just fine, but Tipo is a welcome addition and a major upgrade for your sequencing. Tipo ramps to 4 ink on 3, and this deck is a master at utilizing the value of that skip to 4. After Tipo on 2, you can follow up with a Merlin Crab to bump Tipo up to 4 strength, perfect for taking down aggro characters like Daisy Duck. Cogsworth can also be played on the same turn to rush your Crab into the action as well, resulting in a very efficient early anti-aggro line. Alternatively, you can also simply bounce Tipo back to hand with Mim Fox and rush her in. Either way, you have 4 strength ready to go very early on. Against non-aggro matchups, you can really get ahead by focusing on your own game plan, which is to get out a strong 4 ink card on turn 3. Playing Merlin Rabbit or Goat on turn 3 is never a bad choice, especially if you plan to shift in Big Merlin on turn 4. But even if you're playing a more standard list, bouncing Tipo back with Elephant on 3 is a great way to get a strong character on board. And it can be very difficult for certain decks to even respond to a turn 3 3/7 body. If you like the idea of a location-focused list, Queen's Castle, the Library, or even McDuck Manor can hit the board on turn 3. Feel free to pause the video and check out my location list here if you want. If you're playing an items version of Blurple, Hiram is of course the preferred play, assuming you found Popsicle on turn 1. This deck also benefits from the new Amethyst Chromacon, as your card draw comes from items rather than the bounce package. Finally, I'm also a fan of Floodborn Grandma Tala versions of Blurple. This version's early lines work better with small Tala on 2 into Detective Mickey on 3, into a 5 ink turn 4 big Tala shift. However, just like the others, this deck also likes having Tipo around. As you can see, Blurple has many viable ways it can flex now, thanks to Tipo and other additions like Elsa the Fifth Spirit that help cover some weaknesses from previous formats. I think many players will enjoy the playstyle Amethyst Sapphire offers and all the ways it can be modified to fit different variations like I briefly covered. But today I'm here to talk about my legendary Merlin deck. Merlin is a 3/7/2 lore character that shifts in for 5 ink, and if he does shift in, you get to search your entire deck for a card, immediately placing it into your hand before shuffling. This is a direct deck search, and now you see why Blurple is the key deck for Merlin. He has 12 shift targets with Crab, Rabbit, and Goat, and this color pairing has many great cards to search for. The ability to choose directly enables the unusual possibility of playing a lot of different one-ofs, as you can see in my list. With direct search from Merlin, you can find the tool you need for each scenario. Between Let It Go, Yzma, Hades, Gaston, Cusco, Mufasa, and Elsa, Merlin lets you find exactly what you need going into the mid and late game. More specifically, since the aim is to shift Merlin in for 5 ink, we have a collection of great, flexible 6-cost options to choose from. Yzma for early removal or card draw. Gaston is also here for card draw, and his 3 lore is always welcome. Cusco is your anti-items and anti-location tool, and Let It Go can also be chosen if you want to sing with Merlin right away. Further into the game, choosing Elsa, Mufasa, or a Merlin goat can help close out a victory, but what really becomes valuable is understanding your ink combo thresholds. If you have a Merlin on board, it takes 12 ink to shift Merlin in, to find and play Hades for example, or 13 to do the same but with Elsa or Mufasa. These are the moments where this particular version of Blurple really becomes a powerhouse in the late game, and honestly, it's a blast to play. Let's look at some visuals of the ideal opening lines. Understanding these will also help inform the mulligan strategy. In this Merlin-focused list, Tipo or one jump on 2 leads to one of your 3 purple Merlins, Crab being the best if you need to respond to your opponent's board right away. If you can shift Merlin in on turn 4, you'll get a search off, and prepare to outvalue your opponent early on. Some early games will demand other lines though. Luckily, this deck is incredibly adaptable. I recommend mulliganing hard for Tipo or one jump ahead, plus your main line combos, but keep flexible tools like Cogsworth and Mim Fox in mind, especially if you know what you're playing against. Overall, this is one of the most fun decks I've played so far in Shimmering Skies, and I can't recommend it enough. Make sure to tune in next time for another new deck list. Thanks for watching everyone, make sure to like and subscribe, and until next time, peace.